Thank you for calling. Check out empty phone. Please hold while I try to connect you.
enemy targets civilians. They hide behind civilians.
Because the devil is a Democrat.
What's happening, everybody? Well, Sellers, Sabrina Singh, Beth Sanner, and Mark Short, the liberals on the panel, tried to argue that Donald Trump doesn't have a clear strategy when it comes to dealing with Iran. But Scott Jennings stepped in and made the actual objective crystal clear. And then later in the segment, Scott Jennings completely shuts down the panel when they try to blur the difference between the United States and the people we're actually fighting. Anyway, let's watch Scott Jennings dismantle this argument. Let's go.
Look, I think the American people should know that for 47 years, Iran's been trying to attack Americans and Westerners. For 47 years, they've launched attacks on the Marines in Lebanon. They've funded Hezbollah. They funded Hamas. And so I think they should know the president is committed to trying to demilitarize Iran and take away the offensive capability that they have.
But don't they deserve real answers about where this war is right now, where it's headed, how long it may be, what the military objectives are, how close we are to reaching those objectives, any of that?
I think some of the objectives could be clear, and I think one thing would be helpful is if the administration had fewer people speaking on their behalf. I think that would help keep the messaging simpler. But I don't know that there is confusion as to where we are in this offensive, Abby. I think that we've clearly eliminated the Navy for Iran. We've clearly eliminated the Air Force. We've taken away a lot of their offensive capabilities. And so I think there is still a question of, like, what is the long-term mission here? But I think there's not a question about what's been happening thus far.
On the political side of things, are we going to then not meet the president's own objectives, which is to have an Iran that he can work with, an Iran that's doing what he wants them to do?
Well, I mean, what does he want them to do? He wants them to not have nuclear weapons. He wants them to not have a ballistic missile program. He wants them to not have an aggressive Navy, and he wants them to not be an exporter of terrorism around the world. Now, whatever happens to the next regime, I don't know, but I know this: we will not permit them to do any of those things. The nuclear piece, to me, is the most important. You cannot have a nuclear-armed Iran. They showed up at the negotiations with Witkoff and said, oh, well, we've got enough material to make 11 nuclear weapons. Well, I think having them described as ultimately being compliant or someone you can work with, I don't think that's the vector. What you have to understand about these people is that they're fanatics. They would like to bring about the end of the world by causing a nuclear war that brings in, you know, the religious piece of this for them. So they're not going to ever be compliant about that. They have this worldview. We have to take away their capacity to enact that worldview, which is, to me, why the nuclear piece is a vital issue. You cannot have them sitting out there with any material.
For now,
we're talking, but I think we're talking about the leadership of Iran.
The conversation keeps getting framed like the United States needs to figure out how to work with Iran. When did that become the objective? The objective is capability, stopping nuclear weapons, stopping ballistic missiles, stopping the export of terrorism across the region. Once a regime like Iran has nuclear weapons, the rest of the conversation becomes irrelevant. Something the panel is just ignoring or lying about is the fact that the worldview of the leadership in Iran is not compatible with Western governments. It's just not. And that leads us directly into the second half of this exchange, because once the panel realizes they can't win the strategy argument, guess what they do? Move to something else entirely, trying to blur the moral line between America and the enemy. This is crazy. Back to it.
Well, we're still investigating, and that's where I'll leave it today. But what I will emphasize to you and to the world is that unlike our adversaries, the Iranians, we never target civilians.
There was a report late in the week from two officials that it was likely U.S. involvement. Is that report false?
I've already said we're investigating.
If you could tell the American public it definitively was not us, you would tell us, wouldn't you?
I would say that it's being investigated, which is the only answer I'm prepared to give.
If they do not tell the truth at that moment, if they suppress that, we know we are in a completely different ballgame.
I don't think anybody has faith that Pete Hegseth will stand in front of a camera and say that we did this.
But mistakes happen in war.
Call for the same transparency when Lloyd Austin was AWOL. He had his medical issues and was
He wasn't AWOL. He had a medical issue.
And there was an investigation into that that we released. I was there. We released not only that investigation. We released about the withdrawal. We released about Afghanistan and Iraq. But we released every single investigation, and he took full accountability and responsibility for that.
Did you agree with the president when the president, after all the Afghanistan investigations, judged it to be a raging success, President Biden?
Well, I didn't say that. He didn't say that.
But there was
He did
also
not say it was a
he said it was a- he said it was a bit-
No,
There were
but
also
he actually
investigations
expressed the
into
solemnity of the
Afghanistan
moment of the withdrawal
and all the failures
Yes.
that
I know,
went
but
into
the
that.
commander
so that
still
was
thinks it
that
was
was
great.
done, and
I do not think he came out when
So,
the deaths of service
I mean,
members were there. When we had deaths of
Are you-
service
are you
members,
suggesting
saying
He
it's
checked his
successful.
watch at the remains transfer, didn't he?
I mean,
First of all,
Scott,
Donald Trump literally was talking about ballrooms after 6
Yeah.
soldiers died and wore a hat.
I think the most important thing Hegseth said, and all Americans need to know and understand this: the difference between us and the enemy, we do not target civilians. When it happens, and it will happen in war, it is tragic and it is not meant to be. The enemy targets civilians. They hide behind civilians. They fund people who set up bases in hospitals so that civilians are in the way. That's not what we do. An investigation needs to occur. All the truth needs to be told. And we will give transparency to the American people. But there's two parts of this war: our part and the enemy. The enemy targets civilians. Look what they're doing all over the region,
But the
firing
story
missiles
doesn't end there, Scott. The story is not just we don't target civilians. It is also that when mistakes happen on the battlefield, we take accountability for them.
Correct.
That's the important part.
Nobody has faith in this American.
You see it? While the panel's trying to turn this into a partisan fight about messaging and transparency, Scott brings the conversation back to something much more fundamental. There is a moral difference between how the United States conducts war and how regimes like Iran and the groups they support conduct war. The United States does not target civilians. In this country and under this administration, when civilians are harmed, it's investigated, it's acknowledged, and it's treated as a failure. But groups backed by Iran operate in the opposite direction. They hide behind civilians. They build military infrastructure inside civilian areas. They rely on civilians being in the line of fire. That's not propaganda. That's their strategy. Even though, like typical liberals, they never concede anything, what Scott is trying to do is force the panel to confront a reality they're clearly uncomfortable admitting. This is why Scott's by far the most effective voice on CNN, while the rest of the panel always
kind of shows exactly what. Oh, and here's an ALX take. Always go with the ALX take. ALX quote tweeted CNN. They've deleted a tweet. This is incredible. I didn't plan on starting off here, but like, why not? Everybody's talking about Iran. Yeah, we're gonna have to show the actual proper tweet. Thank you. There it is. Thank you, Clint. Everyone's talking about Iran. And everyone's talking about why you can't have terrorists over in Iran. But ain't nobody talking about why you can't have terrorists here in our country. It is why, with every single time that we mention Iran, ALX, am I right on this? Every time we've done a read about Iran, every time we've done a story about it, we are constantly telling people here in our homeland to keep your head on a swivel. What has been done to our country? What has been done to the demographics of our country, the harmony of our country, the social health of our country, is a crime against humanity. We used to have a country that believed in itself because we had a common cause. The vast majority of the country was Christian, something to the effect of 90+%, all the way up until the 80s, 90s. The vast majority of the country, by design, shared a similar heritage, similar value system, shared a common language. We did not have an influx of foreign and alien ideologies into our country because that makes for a bad country. And that's the point of immigration, is actually to keep alien ideologies from creating friction and to disrupt a harmonious system in your nation. You can't have harmony when mothers feel scared to walk their kids down the street. It's a very simple test. Do you feel like you can take your kid to the public park in your town? Now, this is a test that can be passed or failed, depending on where you live. But this is the test of, do you have a functional society? Do you live in a functional town? If your public park is filled with piss-soaked vagrants and bums, if your public park is filled with out-of-work degenerates sitting around smoking weed, if your public park, which is the intention of the point of your public park, the point of a public space like that, is for the flourishing of families, so the American government can have more taxpayers born and bought in so we can run a country, and not a welfare state for the third world, field an army, have resources, create great minds, continue our people and our great story, our incredible story, the most incredible people to ever live, quite frankly, I would argue, like without a doubt, like America in the last 250 years, the most incredible nation and people to ever live. Stand proud, be proud. The purpose of that place and your neighborhood and where you're raising your kids is security, safety, and to ensure that we can make more Americans. If your parks, and every single big city, and every single Democrat city, I live in a big city, I live in Tampa, our parks are immaculate. You can eat off them. You never see a bum, you never see a degenerate. Somebody starts smoking weed, they'll be run off by the dads. Dads will get their belts off, whipping people. Seriously, it'll happen. I've watched it happen, actually. People don't tolerate it around here. I live in a town filled with cops and veterans, military people, or CENTCOMs. Anyway, what's the point? The point is that what happened in New York this past weekend, and we didn't have a show yesterday, so we didn't really cover it, but perhaps you could grab me a photo or two, I'm sure we have it in the show, is children of first generation, I believe, legal immigrants, but brought over here from foreign lands with foreign and alien cultures, incongruent and inharmonious with Western civilization, decided to throw bombs, nail bombs. I call them an IED, okay? That would be the wartime description of the IED. These terrorists, 18 and 19 years old, these terrorists were radicalized by ISIS and threw bombs at a peaceful protest. There's a peaceful protest against Islam. If you can't protest Islam, it's not America, okay? Then our founding documents mean nothing. You have a right, and if you feel it in your heart, an obligation to protest Islam in our country. It's America. Oh, I thought this was America. It is. And that's what's going on in New York. There's an anti-Islam protest. Okay, absolutely that's allowed. And frankly, it should be encouraged in a free society. People protest all the time. Sometimes you disagree, sometimes you agree, whatever. It is what it is. You shouldn't die in your protest. And that's what the ISIS Islamists who were legally brought over here, who were coddled by our nation in order to create a circumstance where they would throw the bomb, where they would throw these bombs. Oh, we got better photos than that, boys. Where they would take these bombs and throw them at a protester. So this is exactly the point that we've been making. There's an unbelievable series of photos here, and also an unbelievable video, my favorite video of all time. A lib screaming, "We need more tolerance, we need more tolerance," as the bomb is literally thrown over his head. Here it is. Perfect. Thank you, boys. We need more tolerance. We need more tolerance. We love and tolerate people. Listen.
Everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
Yo, this nigga threw a bomb, bro. Yeah, he threw a bomb.
Screaming, so white lib sitting there with a bullhorn saying, "We need tolerance. We need to bring in more outsiders," as the guy yells "Allahu Akbar" and throws a nail bomb, an IED. By the way, the authorities have determined that these bombs contained a very potent explosive. They weren't just dummy bombs. They weren't just glass jars filled with nails. That's bad enough. They contained real explosives, and a real shout out to the NYPD officers. You can see here in this sequence of photos, the officers who, by the way, were the ones who had to apprehend. They're all black. It's just amazing how the Black Lives Matter conversation collapses when it's a black cop and a nail bomb thrown by an ISIS Muslim teen. It's remarkable. Insane photos. Check out these black cops. The bomb is rolling around at their feet. It's frankly, it's them. It's these cops, these officers right here, who are the most at threat. Yet you hear nothing from these people. You hear nothing from feminists about Iran. You hear nothing from the BLM crowd about these cops. They're not going to be venerated. There's not going to be t-shirts with their faces on them. There should be. Look at this. You hear no one disavows these individuals, these terrorists, these homegrown terrorists. And this is why you need to have the full conversation. Yes, terrorism is bad in Iran. It's way worse here in our country. How do you get rid of terrorism here in our country? You stop bringing in absolute hero right here. Look at this. The officer runs towards the danger. He hopped the fence, he jumped the fence. I think we know this officer's name, if we could. This officer jumped the fence to chase down the ISIS terrorist. Chief Aaron Edwards wears blue. God bless you, Chief Aaron Edwards. The guy throws a nail bomb and an IED. The little Muslim terrorist throws an IED at this black cop, and the cop charges him, and chases after him, beats him down. What have we said on this program before? Like, this is, by the way, compatible with the raw teachings of Islam, because you're not allowed, of course, to insult the Prophet. You're not allowed, like, what was happening is Jake Lang was posting an anti-Islam protest. If you read the actual scriptures, if you read the actual commands, Muslims aren't supposed to tolerate that. And depending on how you interpret it, and there's plenty of interpretations. I don't pretend to be some scholar. But, like, free speech isn't allowed. That's been made very, very clear from Charlie Hebdo all the way through. Obviously, so many terrorist attacks you can't count them all, name them all. Free speech is not allowed. Free association, not allowed. Freedom of religion, not allowed. So, like, why should we shouldn't be surprised when this happens. Because the, like, radicalization, okay, fine, but, like, this is commonplace in the Muslim world. And so you need to, like, have a very thorough and very critical conversation. Elemental. It's like the enemy is here at home. And the policies that did this. We talk a lot about illegal immigration. What about the legal immigration policies that did this? We legally brought in 150,000 Afghanis. Yes. No idea who the hell they are. Brought them in here, throw them on welfare. This show broke the news of a dude who's from Syria. He's an Uber driver in Dallas. He's talking about how he's going to use his car to do a huge car bomb. That guy got arrested. We were the first ones to break the video of him talking about, like, how he's going to use his Uber, to bomb a building in Dallas. That's what he said. He said it live on TikTok. He was brought here. He didn't run across the border. That's really bad. And obviously, all we ever do is talk about how terrible the open border was. It was insane and suicidal. But this is worse, because now we're, like, the American taxpayers paid to bring in the Afghani who shot the National Guardsman and killed her on the streets of DC a couple months ago. How quickly we forget. All this was done legally at our expense. So if you're going to go now, like, lay waste to the third world, don't be shocked when the third world that's already here comes and lays waste to us. But we've constantly said, you have to keep your head on a swivel, you should train, get armed. Anyway, why does our show exist? One, for that, like, little rant right there. Sorry about that. Wasn't planning on doing that. ALX is like, oh gosh, here he goes again. We missed a show and we just missed talking about this stuff. The reason why we had to do the rant is, like, it's like a preface of, like, what the show is all about. Like, what if Elon Musk hadn't bought X? What if there weren't, like, podcasts like this? What if there weren't streams like this where we could actually, like, speak the truth? This is what CNN... Okay, so Zorhan Mandami comes out, makes a statement that these guys, that it makes it seem as though the ISIS terrorists were part of the anti-Islam protest, and that it was a hate crime against him. This is Antichrist stuff. It's the exact perversion, absolute polar negative of the truth. It's Antichrist stuff. Give me the Zorhan Mandami quote, and then this one from CNN is great. Please keep this up. Listen to how CNN framed this. Terrorist attack by ISIS. ISIS teens attacking Americans who protest Islam. That's what happened. It was captured in 4K. There's no doubt. Now these guys are being charged with terrorism charges. I know Pam Boddy tweeted about it yesterday. You can get me the charges. So, like, bona fide, legitimate, caught in 4K terrorism, legally brought here by the idiocy of administration after administration that allowed unquestioned, unchecked migration here from the third world. Here's how CNN frames this. 2 Pennsylvania teenagers crossed into New York City for what could have been a normal day, enjoying the city during abnormally warm weather. First off, that's just horrible writing. Normal, abnormally. Who's writing this? ChatGPT wouldn't make that mistake. And anyway, but in less than an hour, their lives would be drastically changed as the pair would be arrested for throwing homemade bombs during an anti-Muslim protest outside of Zohar Mamdani's house. Here's what we know. Do you see what they do here? Do you see why things are so dangerous right now? Do you see the propaganda? I mean, these guys have just been bought. CNN was just purchased by Paramount. Paramount's run by some pretty right-wing people. It's run by, like, certainly not, like, I don't know if they're, like, full hardcore MAGA, but they ain't gonna tolerate this. These people are getting fired. CNN actually just said they were getting fired for writing this. Let me, like, break this down really quickly. This is why we do the show. This is why we do the show. This is sick. This will get more people killed. This radicalizes more people. The next Muslim terrorist reads this and says, CNN will write a puff piece on me. Enjoying a lovely day in New York, I just happened to throw a couple bombs at a protest I didn't like, and they're blaming the cops for arresting me. Can a couple ISIS terrorists just throw a few bombs without having to worry about being arrested on a nice day? Why didn't CNN just write that headline? That's the headline. Could a couple of ISIS, could we want some shawarma? We just want to smoke a hookah? We just want to do a call to prayer and throw a couple bombs at people, at infidels. Can't an ISIS terrorist just have a nice day in the city? What is wrong with this country? Can't we ISIS terrorists just throw bombs? It's our culture. Our culture is not your costumes. We just want to throw bombs in peace. It's a beautiful day outside in New York. We want to kill 50 or so peaceful protesters and NYPD cops. Can you just lay off us? This is what the CNN handle. This is what CNN is asking here. Oh, it makes my head explode. CNN got dragged so hard that something happened that we've never seen before in our lifetime. Maybe this might be one of the last times you ever see it. CNN actually posted and said, yeah, we did a bad thing. A post regarding 2 individuals arrested for throwing homemade. How about ISIS terrorists, homegrown Muslim ISIS terrorists for throwing homemade bombs outside of New York City, Zohar Mamdani's home, failed to reflect the gravity of the incident, thereby breaching the editorial standards required of reporting. Therefore, it has been deleted. It's amazing. They still have the article up on CNN that has the exact same lead. So they're not actually sorry. These people are they're begging. They're begging to get shut down by Ellison and Paramount. This is a great example. This is just a perfect example. This is why we do what we do. This is why it is critical to fight the information war. What's the update on this? Here we go. From the DOJ. We have charged the 2 ISIS-inspired terrorists with attempts to bomb a protest in New York City. We will not allow ISIS poisonous anti-American ideology to threaten our nation. Our law enforcement officers will remain vigilant.
We're just talking. It's been like 6 years since our last one.
Yeah, too long.
Too long. And honestly, with I've probably done about 1,000 interviews. I gotta say, you're one of the nicest people I've ever interviewed.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah. I walked away from our last one.
Your interviews are always amazing, different and amazing. So,
Thank you. Well, before we get into the whole rest of the story, you have a new show called The Mix.
Yes, that is my new baby. it is just a show that I felt like needed to be created for the younger generation, for us to understand, more where they're coming from, how they feel, what they think, because there was a time for me, I know I was like they are just going crazy, like they so wild, and I guess it's really because you see so much because of social media versus when it was back in our, wilder days. It was not really social media going on. So, and, with that, I say watching Zanique and Regine and all her friends, just kind of how they vibe, kind of things they talk about, I felt like it needs to be a platform for this generation so they can speak to their people.
Yeah, I mean, your daughter Zanique is on it. Romeo Miller, Master P's son, is on it. Anton Peoples, Jamie DuBose, am I saying it right?
Yep.
And Jazz Anderson.
Yes. I love my cast. I think, it's a well-rounded cast, being that they are all different ages and different walks of life. Some has been, their family has been in the business for so long. They grew up in it and, just seeing things through a different eye, than others. I just felt like it was well-rounded, just a good cast and all.
Well, congrats. I mean, you're one of the executive producers or the executive producer on the show?
Yes, I am. Yes. I came up with this idea and just went to James DuBose and we made it work.
Right. And, I mean, you've worn this executive producer hat a few times now because some of your other shows you actually executive produce as well.
Yes. I've been lucky to be able to executive produce, I think, every show I've been on so far. So yes, every show you've been on, you've executive produced. Yes.
Wow. Now it's just amazing to see people that have been in the industry for so long and started out as one thing, just being an artist, to transition to so many other things like you've done, to be a songwriter, winning a Grammy that way, to now getting to television and putting on your boss hat for that, as opposed to just being another cast member in a reality show. You actually are executive producing the shows, creating shows, having a level of ownership in it. It's just dope. I'm impressed.
Thank you. Yes. I've been blessed, to be able to do that. I know it's different coming out of the music and just being able to come in and really come in at a level like that. It's definitely a blessing.
No doubt. Congrats on this.
Thank you.
Well, we've done interviews before, but I really want to get more into your story because I feel it's so exceptional. You grew up with mixed parents.
Yes.
And these days that's extremely common. But back then, not so much.
Yeah. So, yeah, and a lot of people don't know this, but my mom and her first husband, which was my sister and brother's father, were the second couple in I think in the southern areas or to be married, interracials. I know it was one couple before them. It was a black woman and a white man got married first, and then they were the second couple. So yeah, it's pretty deep because I know I listen to their stories and how they tell me they would like let my mama through the front door, but my dad and them be performing, they had to go in through the back. Yeah, so it was different. Just hearing a lot of their stories. They have so many. My mom, I just tell her, like, if you wrote a book, like, her story is so interesting. Like, just hearing a lot of things that she went through, it's crazy.
Well, right, because these days interracial is literally like almost the norm. I mean, we had an interracial president. We now have an interracial vice president. But Loving versus Virginia, which was basically the Supreme Court decision to allow interracial marriage, was 1967.
Yeah. So
that was not, like your parents were growing up in an era where it was just illegal. You could not marry the opposite, a different race without potentially going to prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she got married right there in that 67, 68, or 60, right there. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, your parents were kind of trendsetters and trailblazers in a way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, growing up with mixed parents like that, were there ever any issues in terms of like racism from both sides?
I mean, I didn't really feel like as a child, I didn't feel like I caught that, you know. But my sister and my brother have a different story. They said growing up, because we always stayed like in Decatur, Georgia. It's kind of like the hood, you know, like where, you know, it's mainly black. And I won't say it's just the hood, but like it's mainly black people. It's not like a lot of white people. So my sister and my brother, they were younger and they were like the mixed kids with a white mother. So they say they had to fight all their life growing up, you know what I'm saying? But when I came up, as a young girl, I stayed off of Cleveland Avenue, and I don't remember a lot of racism like that, you know. I don't remember going through it myself like that.
Now, you started singing at what age?
I started really singing at the age of probably like 12, 11.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of late. I feel like it was kind of late.
Did it start in the church or singing lessons?
No,
or?
it really started. My father is a singer. He's a singer. He comes from. The name of his group is called the Tams. They were out in the '60s, and they were like a big beach group with the Drifters and everything. So like I was around it all my life, you know, just going in and out of clubs, being with my father, traveling to Myrtle Beach, Jekyll Island. That's where I was most of my life, and. I mean, I just kind of, as I was, you know, growing up, I wanted to dance. Everything was about dance. And my father would be like, you can't make any money dancing. Like, you need to start doing something else, like singing. And he would hear me in the house singing, like, different people's songs. I think, like, one of my main people were, like, Mariah Carey. I started trying to really get into her. And, you know, he would hear me and started training my voice at that time. And I was like maybe about 12, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, I actually looked up the Tams as you were talking about it. They had some snazzy outfits, let me tell you.
Yeah.
The Tams. let me show you.
Yes. Now that picture right there is like a newer picture of them. So that's like the young Tams. But if you go to like some of their old, like my brother's been with them since he was 7 years old. He's now like 50 or yeah. So yeah, that's the originals. That's my father in the far left top.
Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so you grew up in a household that was already deeply in music professionally, not just music fans. You guys were actually in the music business already. Yeah. How successful were the Tams? Did they ever have any hit records or anything else like that? They had
hit records. I think they had like I don't know what she said they charted or they was on chart records, but they definitely had big records like What Kind of Fool Do You Think I Am? I think You Lied to Me, You Lied to Your Daddy. They had a few, about 4 or 5 like nice, pretty big songs.
Okay. Now here you are in Atlanta, and people have to realize this is not the Atlanta of 2020 at that time. Atlanta really had no music scene at all. I remember when I interviewed Jermaine Dupri, he was like kind of telling me how there was just nothing in Atlanta. You know, no hip hop scene, no labels, no major studios. He was flying like writers and stuff like that down to Atlanta. You know, for example, I just interviewed Speech from Arrested Development, where, you know, and they got their start also. And they were saying how in the beginning it was like, you know, their first song was called Tennessee. Like everyone just assumed they were from there because Atlanta was not this hub. The Jermaine Dupri So Def era came later.
That's after.
Yeah, Atlanta, because, you know, I'm thinking like, well, what about Atlanta? But like, nah, you're right. Atlanta at the time was just a small southern city without a bunch of energy around it.
No, it wasn't. In hip hop in particular, there wasn't a lot of energy going on a nationwide, you know, worldwide level. Now, locally, we had acts that we knew about here, you know what I mean? But nah, nationwide, it just wasn't like that.
So as you're coming up, you know, and I guess you sang at Jermaine's birthday party or something like that, where you got discovered. At that point, did you think that you were gonna get on in Atlanta, or did you feel like you needed to go to New York or LA or someplace else?
Well, I mean, we didn't feel like we knew that it was some big producers at the time in Atlanta. We knew that Dallas Austin was a big time producer. We knew that Jermaine Dupri was LA and Babyface. So we knew that we had a chance, because by this time Tony Braxton had been out. I think TLC had just kind of started coming out, but at first we were kind of like traveling. We traveled to DC when we did the first show we did, which was it was kind of like a talent show. I can't remember. Mark Cooper, I think, was doing the hosting or whatever, and we sung "Hold On," and that was like our moment when people started to really know, like, oh, those girls. Even Jermaine. By the time we met Jermaine, he was like, oh, this little group. People kind of like, we would go places and they'll kind of remember us from that show. But we still didn't have a deal. We didn't have anybody. And then we started working with, I don't know if you remember The Boys.
Yeah, of course.
So we started working with The Boys' father, which is, his name is Jabari. And he basically started like grooming us. And from there, when we got back within and got to Jermaine, and he said, oh yeah, he liked us, we sung for him, he liked us, but he said after, Criss Cross wasn't out yet. He was like, after I put them out, I'm gonna come back and get y'all. And we kind of was like, yeah, we done heard it all. Dallas Austin told us we sang too loud, so that didn't go well for us. We was kind of like a little down, but we never stopped rehearsing. We would rehearse like 4 or 5 days out the week, and we would just sing and sing and sing till we felt like. And then, one day Jermaine he kept his word. He called us back and said, hey, bring that group back. And we ended up singing, we were singing Is My Living in Vain for him. And from there, he was like, yo, I'm going to go in the studio. He redid the track, and that's the first thing we recorded.
Right, and originally Escape had 5 members?
Originally, we had 5 members, and her name was Tan. She was in the group before me. And at first, they thought, well, I think when they called me to come in audition for the group, they were thinking about maybe replacing her, because I think they felt like she wasn't really as much into it as, the rest of the girls. So they had me come audition, but when they had me audition, they wanted me, but they didn't want to necessarily get rid of Tan either. So it became 5. And we started working with Jabari, and Jabari is the one who basically put her out of the group.
Oh, okay.
They had a very big argument one time. We was at the studio, and it just went left field, and he said she was out of the group.
Man, I'm sure she feels a level of regret.
Well, I mean, I don't think she does, because I think that, she's still very good friends with, her and Candy are best friends, and, me and her are also very good friends. And I think she's done so well for herself. Like, she went to college, and she's like a realtor, and she makes, her husband, he builds houses, homes, so they kind of like join and make a lot of good money, and, they're doing good. So I think she's pretty happy with herself, with her life,
That's dope.
Married, got a kids, a good, happy home,
When you guys first started putting together the first album, was it kind of established that you're the lead singer, or was that kind of still up in the air?
No, we were always singing, always a foursome, and everybody sung lead. That was our thing that we thought made us different. We always came like, yo, all of us can sing. It's 4 girls, and we all 4 sing, because we would always find groups that came before us, or, some groups that we would be up against that, they have 1 or 2 singers, but it's 4 or 5 girls, and we thought it was just unique that all of us could get up in front and do, and sing lead. So
right,
it never was like a, like it was just, this is what we do. We switch, and we all sing lead. And then we started recording, and, the producers started just doing what they want to do. It was out of our hands.
Right, because when you look at the track record of all your big singles, you're on lead on most of them.
Well, I'm on lead on some of them, but some of them not, So, it's okay. But, I think everything was in divine order, of how it was supposed to be. I guess the producers knew what they wanted, and, we delivered. And, things could have went different, but we're happy with the way they went.
Okay, so the first album, Hummin' Coming At You. Has anyone else asked you that this is actually a lyric from a Cypress Hill song, from How I Could Just Kill a Man?
Yes, we actually got sued for that. So, yeah, we knew about it afterwards because, you know, it was definitely Jermaine's idea. He had this idea of what he wanted us to be like and you know, look like, and, you know, so on and so on. So he felt like, you know, us looking like little rappers and coming out singing like we sung was like gonna be like a shocker. More so like, you know, make people be like, dang, I thought they was finna come out here and rap and they blowing, you know. So he came up with doing the Humming Coming At You, and anyway, we ended up getting sued for that, and we had to pay up.
Okay, by Cypress Hill or by Columbia or?
By Cypress Hill.
Okay. Because that song really has nothing to do with Escape. Like, it's a song called How I Could Just Kill a Man.
Yeah, but I mean, we use just the Humming Coming At You because that's the name of our album. And
right.
Humming Coming At You, what he meant by it is they singing and they coming at you, like they humming like hummingbirds, and they sound and they coming at you. So I get what he was coming from, because that's all he really uses, the humming coming at you. You know what I'm saying? That's all he really used. So I get what he was thinking. He didn't, you know, wasn't necessarily what they were actually talking about, though.
Right, because in the song they're talking about a bullet being fired at somebody.
Yeah. I get it. So he used it for his own, you know, like what he wanted it to be for.
Do you remember how much you guys had to pay up for that lawsuit?
I do not remember. I know we got sued a few times. I do not remember how much that one was.
So you come out with your debut album, and there's always a lot of pressure when you have a brand new group. You know, people aren't really familiar with the various personalities in the songs. It comes out and it goes platinum?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, a platinum album in your debut, like, how did that feel? Because you were how old at the time?
I was 17, I believe, when my album first dropped.
You were a 17-year-old teenager, what, still in high school?
Yeah, it was my last year. Last year, I think it was. 93. So it came out in 93. Yeah, 93. Yeah.
Were you still going to school as this album was coming out?
I'm just gonna be real with you. I never finished school because I hated going to school. I'm just gonna be honest. It was just hard for me to get to going to school. Once I got there, I was fine, but just getting to going, it was my issue. So once I started like singing and doing my, like, knowing that this is real, like I'm about to drop an album, I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to school, but I don't know. And once I went and they told me, because the problem is I had been switching around schools all my high school time, that when I switched from the last school I was at, the school that I ended up at was like, well, you don't have enough credits right now because, you know, we don't credit the way they credit over there when you came from George High. And I was just done like this, and that made me feel like I lost all hope. And I was like, you know what? I'm about to drop a single in a minute, in 1 minute. And I didn't finish, you know. But I don't know, wish I would have finished, but I didn't. God bless me to be able to keep going and, you know, be able to, you know, take care of myself.
Well, Just Kicking It was the big single off that album.
Yes.
Is that the biggest song to date?
Maybe either that or maybe Who Can I Run To? I don't know.
Yeah, off the next album.
Yeah.
Okay, but still, Just Kicking It was a huge single.
But I know it was, for the longest years of our career, it was the biggest song. Yes, and it still may be, but I don't know. Who Can I Run To is pretty, like, they may be neck and neck.
Well, here you are, 17 years old, platinum album. Did that single go platinum?
Yes, the single went
platinum single. Plus, on that album, you got Understanding, Love on My Mind, other big songs. You're a teenager. and now suddenly you're really like in the music business with a hit album and hit songs. Like, how does that feel at that age?
I mean, it was amazing, you know, new for me. I felt like a superhero, I will not lie. I mean, you know, it was just beyond what I could imagine the business would be like. I mean, it was great to be in the business because I wanted to be there, but it also was a lot of work, you know. And I think for us, you know, for Escape, when we came out, we did so much work in our first year and we didn't really get paid. So it kind of like drained us. It kind of made us like, we felt we appreciated, you know, where we had made it to, but we felt like we had really worked hard for it, you know. I mean, you know, I don't know if a lot of other artists had the same, you know, same thing about like we did, like work like night and day, all week long and not, you know, for free. But we did a lot of, it was like, oh, it's promotion, like, dang, when is we gonna get paid? Like, we want to make some money. Like, dang, we tired, like, we want to go to sleep So it's just like, it was, well, you know, we felt like we worked for it. We worked hard.
Well, there's a platinum album, but you guys are a brand new group, so usually those deals are not the best in the beginning.
Yeah.
And there's 4 members, and there's managers, and there's the label, and everything else like that. Like, at what point did the money start to come? Was it a while?
It was a while. And, you know, I mean, I say, like, to us, when you're not used to making any money, well, for a long time, like I said, we did so much promotion that we didn't make any money. It was a long time before we really got to see any money for real. I don't know how long. I'd say at least a year. But I mean, you may need one of the other girls to tell you, but I say it was too long for me. And it's the reason why I say to, you know, a lot of artists, even my artists, I just tell them, like, it's imperative that we try to learn the business so we'll know what we're dealing with as we're going. Because who knows if we were really supposed to do so much promotion that we never got paid. We don't even know how to check if the money was really flowing through or it really was promotion. And so we had all the people working for us and they would tell us, like, look, let us handle the business and you just be an artist. You see what I'm saying? And we were like, yeah, they got us, you know. And I just think that it was just the dumbest thing to do. So, you know, we learned the hard way. But I think that's imperative that you learn what's going on, what you're doing, what you're getting yourself into while you're doing it.
Well, right, because you got to understand that back then you needed a major label to really have a chance to do anything. There was no YouTube, there was no SoundCloud. You could not really independently make any sort of mark back then. You needed that machine to really even make minimum wage.
Right, you had to have it. There's no other way.
Yeah. So then the second album comes out, Off the Hook.
Yes.
And that goes platinum again.
Yes.
And Who Can I Run To is on that album.
Yes. Who Can I Run To is on that album. Do You Want To is on that album. Feel So Good is on that album. Those are the singles on that album. I think Run To The Arms is on. No, that might be on the third album. I don't know. I'm getting mixed up. But either way, it was my favorite album of all our albums.
Well, I mean, I think that Who Can I Run To is probably, I mean, in my opinion, Escape's best song.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think in terms of a timeless song, you know, Just Kicking It is dope, but I kind of feel like that's a record that was really, you know, it was that era.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was really kind of personified that era, whereas Who Can I Run To is sort of just a timeless ballad.
Timeless ballad, yeah. I feel that. I'm with that too. I think Understanding also had its own moment where it touched a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? So Understanding, but that was on our first album. So it was another big song coming after Just Kicking It. It was another they really got talent. You know.
Right. And Organized Noise actually did one of the tracks on that album.
Yes, they Organized Noise did Tonight, and another song on the album as well. I think Understanding was done by Jermaine and Emmanuel Lewis.
Mm-hmm. And that was right around the same time that Waterfalls came out by TLC, which they produced.
Yes, exactly.
So they were on fire at that point.
They were. There's some good producers. They were good.
Okay. Now, the album comes out in 1995. A couple years later, Biggie starts to blow up. Well, Biggie had already blown up and did really well. And there was that song, Dreams, where he dissed you guys.
Right.
And here we go in 1997. There's this huge vibe party in LA. And Biggie is there.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, he tried to approach you guys to apologize.
So he did. And so that was a couple times after the Dream song that we had a couple shows, and he would be, Jermaine would be like, yo, Biggie wants to see y'all. He wants to talk to y'all. And, some of the girls was like, no. I don't remember, I just remember us not really wanting to deal with him. Like, we don't want to talk to him, but man, And then, at the vibe party, he was there and someone came to us. Biggie wanted to speak to us. And, Candy was like, I'm not going over there. I don't want to talk to him. And I was just like, all right, I'll go over there. So I went, and he basically apologized and said he was, he apologized for saying that he thought we were beautiful, and that, he was just like, he was like, I'm an ugly motherfucker, and I ain't had no business talking about nobody, and we laughed, and he gave it, we hugged or whatever, and it was all good. And then,
Well, yeah, and then, maybe 30 minutes later, he gets murdered.
Like, it was crazy. So, and I just know for Candy, she was like, dang, I should have said something.
Right. I mean, when you heard that news, considering you had just talked to him, like, right before, like, how did you feel?
Well, it was crazy. It was, like, so real. Like, so, just trying to, like, I just felt like I was just glad that I got a chance to, like, even say anything and speak to him. We got a chance to talk, and he got a chance to tell me how he felt. He apologized, and it went all good.
Well, right, because Jermaine Dupri had been working with him, right? Because the Brat showed up on that song with him.
Right, him and Jermaine were always still friends. They were cool, and Jermaine would always try to get us to try to talk to him. He'd be like, he wants to talk to y'all. He loves y'all music, and we're like, no. And so, that's how that happened. And that happened for years, and then we got to see him at the vibe party.
Yeah, rest in peace. One of the greatest ever, even to this day. Oof. Okay, so then the next album, Traces of My Lipstick.
Traces of My Lipstick.
And that had The Arms of the One Who Loves Me.
Yes. You like that song, The Arms of the One Who Loves You? I just love the fact that we got to work with Diane Warren. I mean, like, she's a mega songwriter, and she was writing songs for all the major artists at the time, and we wanted to be a part of that, and we finally got to work with her. It was just amazing time for us. We really felt like we were growing, like we had really made it at this point.
Right. Babyface did some production on it.
Yes. So
Keith Sweat as well.
Keith Sweat was on. Yes, he was. What song was that? The song we did for this group. Yeah, but he's definitely on there.
He did Am I Dreaming?
Yes, Am I Dreaming?
So this album goes platinum once again. You guys are 3 for 3.
Yeah, 3 for 3. Yeah, this album took us a little minute to go platinum because we kind of broke up in the middle and right at the beginning of this album coming out. So we had to find a way to get back on the road to kind of promote this album, even though we were no longer together as a foursome. And so what we did was we ended up just trying to get back together in different ways, different times with different members, and going out there doing promotion, different places, and getting that album to 1 million sales. So and we did.
Well, I mean, Escape ended up selling 7 million albums. worldwide. You guys have 3 platinum albums in a row, a bunch of big songs. Why on earth would you guys decide to break up at that point?
I think it was a lot of ego involved. It was a lot of like people from not just us four that's outside of us that have their input and their say, and it just kind of just turned into a big and then also we had like little small issues from early on in the days that kind of escalated, never got resolved, and just blew up into this big, like, I don't like you, I can't stand you type of thing. And it just got hard to keep it together, to come to work. Like, it started feeling like, just a drag just to be there, Nobody really wanted to be around each other. I mean, I won't say out of all of us, maybe 1 or 2 don't want to see each other, or, 1 don't want to see all 3 of us, or, it was just different. It was just too much. It started getting forced.
I mean, was there ever any real drama, like a fist fight or something just going crazy?
Some fights. Well, we only had really 2 fights. Like, me and Candy had a little slap, a little quickie, you know what I'm saying? And I was pregnant, so, it wasn't that bad, but we did have a little slap here and there, we got into a little. And then Tasha and Candy finally got into a fight as well. And it just seemed like it was a long overdue time, because they were always kind of back and forth. And it finally escalated into a real fight. And I just remember us rehearsing. I don't remember what we were rehearsing for, but that rehearsal hall was turned upside down.
Okay, just a full-blown fist fight.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, who won from your perspective?
I will not tell you that. You will have to find out in the movie.
In the movie, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now you guys break up, and everyone kind of does their sort of solo thing to a certain degree. You end up kind of focusing on the writing.
Yes.
And in 2000, a couple years after you guys break up, that's when No Scrubs comes together.
Yes.
And I mean, TLC was already on fire by this point. Just completely on fire. I mean, weren't they like breaking records for like the biggest selling like all-female group or something of that sort by that time?
They definitely were. I mean, TLC at that time could not be stopped. Everything they was touching was on fire, literally, so yeah. I mean, it was a major move for me and Candy to even be able to place a song with TLC. We initially was writing that song for our own. We were going to become a 2-man group because the group was broke up. So it was going to be called Candy and Tiny, KAT. And we were making all kinds of different songs. And No Scrub was one of the songs we made out of the 15 other nasty songs we were making. Me and Candy had some very nasty music. When I think about it, it's like, what were we thinking? But anyway, No Scrubs was one of the songs that we wrote, and we really like, this is a hit, And when somehow Tony Mercedes got a hold of it and took it to LA and it just got out of hand, and it came back like, TLC wants this song. And we're like, no. You know what I'm saying? And they like, what do you mean? Shakespeare's like, what do you mean? TLC wants this song. And for a minute, like, we just was like, no, we are doing this song. This song is for us. And then we thought about it, like, we tripping. TLC want the song. So we gave TLC the song, and it was the best thing we could have ever done.
I mean, I remember when that came out, men hated that song.
I know. But then men went and made a song called No Pigeons. And it was the best thing they could have done because we got paid from that too. So, yes, we loved it.
Right. Because when I was looking up, researching you won an ASCAP rap award for No Pigeons?
Yeah. Yeah, we
because
did.
because they sampled you.
Because I forgot.
Okay, but you didn't actually write on that song. It was because they sampled you, right?
Yeah, it's because they sampled us. Right.
Right. And No Pigeons was like the men's reply. You know,
Yes.
like basically y'all calling us scrubs, we're gonna call y'all pigeons, and
Pretty much.
pretty much. And then later on, you know, you fast forward a few years, and Ed Sheeran has the song "Shape of You," which
Yes.
ends up becoming a massive worldwide smash.
Yes.
And people start commenting saying, "Hey, this song kind of sounds like No Scrubs a little bit."
Yes, I mean, like I said, the song "No Scrub" just keeps on blessing us, and this song may bless us for the rest of our life. Who knows? But you know, it just keeps coming around for us, and you know, we just, like I said, we couldn't have picked a better thing to do was give this song to TLC. It was
right, and actually, yeah, and what's actually kind of ironic, now that I really think about it, was there was this monumental lawsuit over Pharrell, Robin Thicke, and T.I. song Blurred Lines, right?
Yeah.
Up until that point, you can make a song that kind of sounded like another song, and you can get away with it, right? Yeah. But then when Blurred Lines came out, the estate of Marvin Gaye said, we're going to sue you over this song sounding similar to a Marvin Gaye song, and they won, like a $5 million lawsuit. Now, T.I. had nothing to do with it. He's just rapping on the song, right? He didn't compose the music, so he didn't take that hit. But from what I understand, that lawsuit set a precedent in the music industry, which is why people like Ed Sheeran would just turn around and say, okay, I'm just going to give writing credit to Tiny before she ends up suing me and ends up doing the same thing over like the Blurred Lines lawsuit. Is that a fair sort of assessment?
I mean, I think it is, you know, because, you know, people, if they feel like their work is being used, then of course they're going to want something. And I just think if you want to use it, then just pay for it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, everybody's happy.
You end up dating T.I. in 2001. By that time, you had how many children?
I had one child when I started dating him. Well, we have 7 kids in all. Me and him end up having 4 kids together. Wait. Major. Yeah, 4 kids, but one was stillborn. So we have 3 living kids together that we had together. And then we have his 3 kids and my other daughter. So 7 of them.
Okay, so yeah, in 2007, you had a child that was stillborn. I guess it was 6 months in?
Yes.
And that was the first child that you guys were supposed to have together?
That was our second child.
Our second child, okay. Yes. How devastating was that whole incident?
Very devastating. It was probably like my saddest moment in my life, like, you know, when I was in my darkest time. Because I'm always pretty upbeat. I don't really have a lot of times where I'm like down and I'm just like, you know, feeling depressed or whatever. I don't really have those moments that much, thank God. You know, I've had it here and there, but that was the most I've ever been like out of it for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of women go through miscarriages, but a stillborn, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, like, I was just like, you know, the thought of going home, having a baby, but not going home with a baby, like, that is traumatizing.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Thank you.
Well, you know, by 2005, Escape had been broken up for a while, but then you guys tried to reunite and do a 4th album, Unchained?
Yeah, Unchained.
But that didn't really work out according to plan.
No, it didn't work out. We didn't have, our business wasn't together, you know, which is a long time problem for Escape, you know, and it just wasn't like worth, you know, it was my relationship was very rocky for me trying to go out and pursue this that wasn't even together, you know what I'm saying? And I gave it a go because I felt like it's worth a shot. You know, I would love to do this. And because the business wasn't together, everything was going so wrong, I just gave it up. Kind of like, I can't, you know, I kind of want to go back and get my relationship back because this is going to hell. And this is a part of my, you know, so I just, it just stopped moving. You know, I think all the pieces were crumbling down together.
So was that pretty much the end of Escape at that point?
Yeah, for me it was, because I felt like, well, we tried it, you know, and I gave it a go. I put a lot of strain on my relationship for it, and it didn't work, and I didn't feel like I would want to try that anymore. I was kind of like happy with, I kind of had a, you know, was been put at my feet, so I kind of felt like, why am I, you know, going to stress it if it's not going to ever get together and be totally, you know, 100%.
I mean, you guys had a great run.
We really did, and it was exciting, and I felt like, you know, it was worth it. Like, it was something that we loved, you know. But at that time when we did Unchained, we didn't have, it wasn't, you know, Candy wasn't there, and it was, you know, the business wasn't together, so it just wasn't like real. It didn't seem the same.
Well, by 2011, you guys decided to do the reality show with the family hustle. You know, with the track record of reality shows, you know, a lot of times you see, you know, couples like Hulk Hogan and his wife happily married for 100 years, then they do a reality show, and then next thing you know, they're divorcing, and, you know, his wife is dating an 18-year-old, and it just ends up being somewhat of a mess. You know, but you're actually executive producing this show. So did you feel like having your hands in that part of the business would prevent that?
Well, I mean, I know that it was a big issue in my household because we spoke about it, you know, at first. You know, first of all, in 2009, I did my first reality show, which was Tiny and Toya, with me and just Toya, you know, Toya Wright, which is Lil Wayne's baby mother, and ex-wife at the time. And so we did our show. It was very successful. And it brought on, you know, me trying to get Tip to let us do a family show, and he wasn't really with it. And then once he got out, I know he wanted to, I guess, you know, show himself. He was kind of like, you know, just a lot of bad stigma, want to show himself in a different light. And he kind of agreed to work with us and do it. But he was also, you know, that was his biggest thing. Like, everybody gets together and they break up. You know, you see all the couples and the Bobby Brown and Whitney and this and that. And, you know, and I got it. You know, and I was definitely afraid of that. And it did put some strain on our relationship. If you see, and we, you know, was about to divorce here and there and breaking up here and there. But it also still brought us close too at the same time. And we're still like fighting it out. We're still here together, you know, at the end of the day.
You know, you guys went on Red Table Talk, you and T.I., to talk about how you guys almost got divorced. Mm-hmm. How stressful was that whole time?
I mean, it was pretty stressful because, you know, I was going through what I was going through, you know, within myself. But once I filed, you know, everything becomes public record. And, you know, you file, you want to deal with things privately, but at the same time, there's no way to be private in that, you know, when you're dealing with a celebrity couple, when they're trying to go through marital issues. And it just put a lot of back and forth, a lot more strain on just what we had going on. And for a while, it went on for a while, you know, and I think that it just made us see, like, what we were, you know, are we really ready to go that far, or do we really want to fight? Like, what is it, you know what I'm saying? Is it worth fighting for? It kind of made us see what we had within each other and if we really felt like it was worth it, you know, and brought us back.
Right. I remember on the show on Red Table Talk, you said that you've never slept with anyone else, and he said, I've never been dishonest with you. And it was sort of this kind of people were trying to kind of decipher that whole thing. How did you take that statement?
Period.
Yeah.
You know, I guess he meant what he says.
What's really, because you see so many, so many couples getting divorced. And it seems like, wasn't the timing of the divorce right after you guys had a baby?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when you usually see it. Like right after the baby comes and, sometimes the woman goes through, the postpartum depression. I don't know if you went through that or not, but a lot of women do. And suddenly you have this whole new situation. You got a newborn baby and there's all these responsibilities, even if you have nannies. Was that really the cause of triggering the divorce? And then afterwards?
I think for me, I did have postpartum depression, but not with Eris. Mainly with Major, and I don't really know why. You know what I'm saying? I kind of wasn't used to ever having it, and then I caught myself like feeling like, oh dang, you really dealing with it. I just feel like when you have a baby, I don't know what it is, it puts a lot of strain on the relationship, and especially after, I don't know what it is. Some first like 4 or 5 months after, it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's something that it is that, maybe the woman is caring to the baby so much, the man needs attention. It's just like, it's ridiculous, it's crazy, but something goes wrong in between that time of carrying the baby and after you have the baby. And once you get back on your feet and you got your stuff together, you can kind of like maneuver, everything starts to come full circle for you, and whether or not you're being with the father or not, you kind of got a grasp on what how you gonna handle things and how you gonna move, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like after those first few months of after having her, whether or not I was dealing with him or not, once I got to the point to where I could like move and do things, I was all right.
At what